All right, and are we actually recording this time?
We are.
All right, excellent. Well, welcome back, everybody, at long last to the Murphy's Law episode of the Triple Doink podcast, where everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong in recording this episode so far. Um, and as a result, we are going to be covering Week 6 and Week 7 of NFL football, and also the Thursday night game from Week 8. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
a lot to get to.
we're doing that all
Um,
in like a ra- uh catch up format,
yeah.
right?
Well, week 6, I think we'll do in a catch-up format. Week
I think
7,
we
we
could
can
do
do kind of.
both, and then we could actually do predictions because I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, we could do
Switch it
that.
up a bit because it's already
Sure.
Friday, Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's already Friday. That's a good point. Um, but anyway, that's Bryce. The who would have thought I'd ever be saying this? The Aaron Rodgers to my Alan Lazard. Um, I mean
Ah,
that was quite a throw and catch in that Monday night game. Um,
uh,
but
a
anyway,
a game doomed for history to be
yeah.
known forever as a regret.
Yeah, that's probably the one game that I want to like stop and actually spend some time on.
Us for sure,
But we
rightfully
can
so.
fly through most of these. So anyway, let's get going with week 6. So we'll start with a game that I didn't watch, Giants and Patriots. Any thoughts, Bryce?
Daniel Jones proves he's a rookie, and the Patriots prove that their defense is really good. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, fair enough. So let's move to the London game from week 6, Panthers and Buccaneers. Um, this was the first corrected prediction of the season, meaning that we had the Panthers predicted to win the first matchup, they lost, and the Bucks predicted to win the second matchup, they won. Or sorry, they lost. I can't speak, but it fixed our prediction from week 2, so that's cool. And by the way, we got. Let me pull it up real quick. We've been doing really poorly in the predictions recently.
I
Um,
I remember
yeah.
that.
Yep. We got 6 of 14 correct in week 6 and 7 of 14 correct in week 7. So we're back up to 50% at least. um, but anyway, other than that, there wasn't a ton to talk about in this game. There was a fair catch free kick, which doesn't happen very often, which Joey Sly pulled to the right. Uh, Jameis Winston turned the ball over 6 times, including 5 interceptions, and proved that he's Jameis Winston. And that's it.
Bruce Arians is living in forever purgatory of quarterbacks that should be good but won't be good.
Well, he can always just retire. I
No,
mean,
no. I think he is good enough to win a Super Bowl, but he just always seems to. It's like he only wants to pick quarterbacks that no one else wants.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's move on from that game. Let's go to the Eagles and Vikings. Um, this game, the Eagles made it close in the third quarter. They got a score to, I believe, make it a one-score game at the time, and then had the ball again, but couldn't cash in. And ultimately, they're just way too banged up, especially in the secondary, to compete with a good team at this point. And we saw that again in Dallas in Week 7.
Yeah, I feel. I mean, the Eagles are a no joke team that just seems to not have any pieces health all their pieces healthy at once.
Yeah,
They're just gonna. They seem like they're gonna be that team this year.
they've had some of the worst injury luck that I can remember since the Packers the year that they won the Super Bowl. Um, that was an incredibly injured team, and they were. I'm still amazed that they managed to win the Super Bowl that year with all the injuries. But anyway, um, so moving on to two teams that went into this game winless, the Racists and Dolphins. Um,
Fitzmagic
so
came in mid game.
yeah, Fitzmagic took over for Josh Rosen. Rosen was benched when the Dolphins were down 17-3 and immediately led them to 2 touchdowns. And then with 6 seconds left on the clock, they decided to go for 2 to try to win it right there and then, which is still always the right decision. I defend that decision. However, the Dolphins failed and lost the game.
Winning
So,
the tank ball.
yep.
Part
And it's
one.
another tank bowl for the Dolphins coming up this week, which I imagine we'll talk about when we predict games. But anyway, nothing else really to talk about in that game. Texans and Chiefs. This was an exciting game. Houston just kind of looked like the better team throughout, which was surprising. And in my notes, which I wrote, of course, before week 7, I wrote, Mahomes is hurt and it's showing. But even hurt, I'd take him over most quarterbacks in the league.
Well,
Then, then I wrote, the Chiefs' defense is still not good, and they are exposed when the offense is not in sync. So the Chiefs still have big issues on the defensive side of the ball, and when they're facing a good offense, and their offense isn't putting up 40 points a game, they can be in trouble, and that's not a
the
recipe to
Andy
win a
Reid
lot of
way.
games. I guess they. I mean,
All those mid 2000 Eagles teams are looking at you
yeah.
like we've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
Okay.
Reid will
So
ever win a Super Bowl.
yeah, it doesn't look like he'll be able to do it this year, especially with how well the Patriots are playing. But anyway, so moving on to Saints and Jaguars. I'll let you talk about this.
Um, the groin injury for Minshew really showed. And the playing against the best defense they could have played against all year, except for barring a few others, a few handful, like one of the best defenses they'll ever play. It really hurt that when you take away DJ Chark, which is the only weapon on that offense, like they're not going to be able to do much of anything. Like Fournette was averaging just over 3 yards a carry. You can't have that. You can't run the ball 20 times and not break 100. Not
Yeah.
even break 80. Like
Yeah.
there is not a
And
lot going
honestly,
on.
the Saints. I really think the Saints and Patriots are the 2 best defenses in the league. And I know that you
Bills
like. I know that you like the Bills. And they're
and the
very good
49ers.
too. And the 49ers have been good too. But they're all right up there, and
Those 4, and then I think after that you'd go like to the Packers and stuff like that.
the Packers. Well, I don't know. We'll see. This week they're likely to get Darnell Savage back, so we'll see how they do. But um, anyway, we can move on from this for now. So let's move to the Browns and Seahawks game. This was a wild game. This was the first time that the officials screwed over a team in Week 6. Um, so the Browns were right in this game, and the officials screwed them 4 separate times. There were 2 very iffy roughing the passer calls that um, they called on hits on Russell Wilson, which maybe shouldn't have been called. Then there was a blindside block called against Jarvis Landry that wiped out a big run by Nick Chubb, and it was clearly not an illegal block on replay. And then at the very end of the game, with just over 2 minutes left, and the Browns had used their last timeout, DK Metcalf was going for a ball on the sideline, and it looked like it should have been called an incompletion, but it was called a completion in bounds. And because the Browns were out of timeouts and it wasn't under 2 minutes, they couldn't review the play, and the Seahawks were able to just run out the clock from there because the completion gave them a first down. So, yeah, the Browns got screwed, but the Seahawks did look like the better team. And I really don't know what to think about this Browns offense. It seems like they're good whenever they don't have to face a pass rush.
I mean, that then I guess you do know how you feel about them. I mean, They have a terrible
I
O-line.
guess so. Yeah, they're a really good offense with a terrible O line, and that's holding them back. Um, but anyway, do you have any further thoughts on this, or should we move on?
No, not a lot. I think that the Browns were not. I don't know if I would say they were screwed because I don't think they win this game, even if those calls are
Yeah,
on
it's
the Browns.
possible.
I don't. They did not look like the better team. They were
Okay.
stumbling to 28 points, whereas the Seahawks just cruised their way to 32. That's the
Hmm.
difference.
All right. So Bengals and Ravens. I literally only wrote, I have nothing to say about this game. So, do you have any thoughts?
Um, the winless Bengals prove once again why they're winless.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So moving on. Speaking of another crappy team, the Falcons and Cardinals. Um, so the end of the game, Matt Bryant yanked the extra point that would have tied the game at the very end. And normally I would advocate going for two to take the lead in that situation. But in this game, it just didn't matter because with just under 2 minutes left, there was no way that the Falcons defense was going to stop the Cardinals offense. Their defense is
Yeah.
just so bad. Um, there was one play in this game where the announcers said after David Johnson caught a pass in the open field, the play-by-play guy said, "There's no one within 40 yards of David Johnson," and he was right.
It wasn't
um,
an exaggeration, it turned out.
yeah, there was nobody even close to him. He just like caught the ball in open space, and I feel like he was expecting for somebody to hit him, and then just he kept running, and nobody did. Um, and my conclusion here is that Dan Quinn is he's done. He's going to get fired probably before the end of the season.
Yeah. The era.
Yeah.
Right, he is
Um,
far from the Legion of Boom. He's as
yeah.
far from that as he's ever been.
Mm-hmm. Um, so anyway, moving on to this is another game that I want to take a little bit of time and talk about, and this is 49ers and Rams. Um, which, by the way, was an incorrect prediction because we have them splitting, and so we thought the Rams would win in LA. If the Rams win later in Week 16 in San Francisco, we'll get this one right. Um, but anyway, this game looked really even in the first half. Each team scored a touchdown on offense. Jimmy G threw a red zone pick, and then the 49ers defense had a great goal line stand to stop the Rams on 4th and goal from the 1. Um, Robbie Gould missed a long field goal at the end of the first half, and so the score was just 7-7 at halftime. But then in the second half, things fell apart for the Rams. So let me read to you what the Rams' drives looked like in the second half. Are you ready for this?
All right.
All right. One play, -7 yards, fumble. Next drive. 3 plays, -15 yards, punt. Next drive. 3 plays, -7 yards, punt. In the third quarter, they had -29 yards of offense.
I
That was
remember
their third
this.
quarter. Then in the fourth quarter, okay, things are a little bit better. 6 plays, 19 yards, turnover on downs. 4 plays, 8 yards, turnover on downs. 3 plays, -17 yards, punt. 6 plays, 16 yards, turnover on downs. And then that's the end of the game. The 49ers ran out the clock after that. The Rams had -3 yards of total offense in the second half. I mean, that's a
That
defense.
that's that's practicing in more ways than one. Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, this is supposed to be offensive mastermind Sean McVay, and I don't know if it's just it's a combination of things. It's Gurley not being Gurley. It's Jared Goff, I think, not being the guy. And it's also a really good 49ers defense. Um, and that's all I really have on that game. Do you have anything to add?
Gurley didn't play this game.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't.
Malcolm Brown was the
However,
starting running back.
Todd Gurley is not even the best running back on that team anymore.
Huh?
No, he's not. I mean, he's just a guy at this point. Chris Wessling said the equivalent to what happened to Todd Gurley with this injury, it would be like if George Kittle got hurt and then came back as Kyle Rudolph. That's what Todd Gurley's injury is like.
I mean, he's still the best running back on that team. Are you telling me Malcolm Brown is better than Todd Gurley?
No, not Malcolm Brown. Who's the other guy?
Darrell Henderson?
Yeah, Darrell Henderson. He actually like
I think that's
he.
too early to say.
I mean,
I
probably.
would always have Gurley over.
But the point is, Todd Gurley does not look like the elite running back that he was before that injury.
I mean, he doesn't look like the best running back in the league.
No, and that's really hurt their offense.
He does not have the longevity of being like a Le'Veon Bell, and he is not as good as Christian McCaffrey.
Or Dalvin Cook.
Anyway, yeah.
So moving on to the Titans and Broncos.
Yeah, that game happened. Anyway.
Another quarterback getting pulled. Marcus Mariota got pulled in the third quarter. And from what I know of Marcus Mariota, he seems like a pretty good guy, very likable. But for the sake of football, I hope we never see him play again. He is not a good quarterback and should not be in the game.
Someone refers to you as a good guy before when referring to you in your position at all. You probably are really bad because they don't want to talk about your play. They just want to say, oh, he's good in the work,
No, I do want to talk about his play, though.
In the workplace, it's probably because you're not doing your job.
Well, okay, that's true for everybody except for Jake Brisket, though. But with Mariota, like I said,
Jacoby Brissett is actually good, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point, and he's a great guy.
You can be a great guy, but like the first thing when I think about Jacoby Brissett, most people first thing they mention with him is actually like he's holding up. He has he's going through reads better than you would expect from a backup, and he actually looks like he can be the face of the franchise for years. And then they're like, by the way, he's also a good guy.
Anyway, we'll probably talk more about Mariota when we get to the Titans' Week 7 game against the Chargers. But anyway, moving on from that one, Cowboys and Jets. This was an exciting game. The Jets getting their first win of the season.
Mono no more.
Yeah, so there was a key moment in the game late in the second quarter. The Cowboys were down 7-3, had the ball in the red zone, went for it on 4th and 2, and did not get it. And on the very next play, Sam Darnold to Robbie Anderson for 92 yards, that long touchdown pass. And, I mean, that was a huge swing in the game. So the Cowboys went from 4 points down with the ball in the red zone to suddenly 11 points down, just like that. And then I really am not entirely sure how the Jets allowed Dallas to come back and make it a game at the end. It reminded me actually of the Packers-Vikings game from week 2 where the Packers jumped out to a big lead and then just...
The tie? No,
this year's game where they won. They won, but they allowed the Vikings to come back and make it close, where they got out to a big lead and then just kind of sat on it. And that was kind of what happened with the Jets in this game too. The final drive of this game for Dallas, where they went down and scored a touchdown, there was a penalty on every single play of the drive on one of the two teams until the last 2 plays, which was just ridiculous. It's like both of these teams were just so tired. They were just committing penalties all over the place. And then it was an 8-point game at that point. They scored the touchdown, but then failed the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game. And then on the onside kick attempt, Demaryius Thomas almost lost the ball trying to recover the onside kick, which would have been a very Jets thing to do. But he did get the ball, so the Jets held on and won. So that's all I have for that game. That was a good game, though.
Yeah.
It was fun to see the Jets playing competitively, and also really fun to see the Cowboys go from 3-0 to 3-3. I always like when the Cowboys struggle.
I wonder why.
So, anyway, moving on to Sunday night, the Steelers and Chargers. I wrote in my notes, the Falcons may be the most disappointing NFL team this season, but the Chargers are right there. And the Steelers can feel good about this game going in with your third string quarterback. And I would say going into a hostile environment, but it was not a hostile environment in Los Angeles. But going in with your third string quarterback and getting a win, you can feel good about that if you're the Steelers.
Yeah.
So
I still think they're dead in the water, but yeah.
Yeah, they are. And the Chargers are even more dead.
Yeah.
They did get Hunter Henry back in this game, which was huge for their offense. They were actually able to. I mean, they're a terrible team, but they did get Hunter Henry back.
All right, yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so then we can move on to the game that I actually want to spend time on from Week 6, which is the Lions and Packers. I have so many things to say about this game. The first thing I will mention is that Aaron Rodgers, in his career, now has 21 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime, and 6 of them are against the Detroit Lions. He has broken the Lions' hearts 6 different times. That includes the Hail Mary in Detroit. That includes this game with the officiating. Yeah.
This was the worst officiated game of all time.
Well, no, it wasn't.
Of all time.
Bryce, I watched the Hail Mary game. Careful what you say here.
The Hail Mary?
The Hail Mary. Are you not remembering this? Packers at Seahawks?
That happened. This is worse.
No, it is not. There's no way. There's no way that this is worse than that. But anyway.
Because these guys are getting paid as these guys are supposed to be the best refs, right? These guys aren't supposed to be some replacements. And you're telling
me, but you can't say that this game was worse because the officials are supposed to be better. It was still worse. No.
The quality was just as low with people who are supposed to.
It was not just as low. This quality
100% just as low. This is the worst year of officiating of all time. I remember this is worse. This was worse.
I feel like that's recency bias. I feel like you're experiencing some recency bias.
This year has been so bad. No, I honestly I'd rather there be no refs. I'd rather people just try to cut each other's heads off. I don't want these refs anymore, dude.
All right. I feel like you're in a very small minority on that opinion.
It's just they're so bad.
Like there's been a lot of officiating issues, but I mean, I don't think it's any better or worse than the last few years overall.
Yeah, I don't. This year has been so much worse, and it's been exemplified because of the pass interference calls. Bullshit.
Yeah, but on the bright side, though, we're not talking about the catch rule anymore, so that's something.
I mean, it's because everyone knows what a catch tech is to the NFL now. Like, it's actually like.
Yeah, exactly. They fixed that rule. Now we have a different crappy rule to complain about. But anyway, moving on. Other notes in this game. So Alan Lazard, the catch that I mentioned up top, um, reminded me in the moment of the throw it again play from the Cowboys game a year ago, where Devontae Adams missed the ball on a fade in the end zone, got into the huddle, and told Aaron Rodgers throw it again, and they ran the same play again and scored a touchdown. On that Alan Lazard play, he had beaten his defender on the previous route and wasn't able to come down with the pass. And Aaron Rodgers knew that he had the matchup he wanted, and they went right back to it, and Rodgers threw an absolutely perfect pass. Could not have been better placed. And it was exactly where it had to be. So that was a pretty.
They still should have lost.
Oh yeah.
100%. They should have lost by 10.
Well, I mean, yeah. But anyway, continuing, I have a lot of notes, so
yeah.
Let me just continue. The next thing I wrote is if the Packers can get their offense healthy, meaning get Savage back, or excuse me, get Adams back, and get Savage back on defense, they'll be pretty much unstoppable, I feel. There's only a few teams, I think, that could contain the Packers at this point. And the next note is on the Lions side, their defense in their last 3 games has made Carson Wentz, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers all look human. And then you go and look at what they did in week 7, and they allowed Kirk Cousins to look like a great quarterback. But anyway, ignoring that and moving on, Matt Prater and Mason Crosby were combined 8 for 8 on field goals and 3 for 3 on extra points, which is always good to see. I like games without missed kicks.
Matt Prater is actually so good. Who do
yeah,
you
he
think
is.
The top 3 kickers in the league are.
Prater's up there. Well, top 3 in terms of just overall, or like consistency, or
you would next game. Who are the top 3 kickers you want kicking for your team? Because
I would.
My number 1.
I like Matt Prater. I mean, Gostkowski, of course, is hurt. I love Justin Tucker.
There's a certain kicker that hasn't missed a kick all year. He's, I think, the only one right now. And he broke Justin Tucker's streak recently.
Which kicker is that?
He plays for a little team down in Florida. His name's Josh Lambo.
Okay.
And
yeah, Josh Lambo's
the best kicker in the league this year.
Josh Lambo's a good one. And like I don't know. I mean, Greg Zuerlein is always a good choice. Joey Sly's kicked pretty well. Zane Gonzalez has kicked pretty well.
Joey Sly.
I mean, I'm just saying there's a lot of good options. But anyway, Jake Elliott for the Eagles is another pretty good kicker. But anyway, moving on in this game. So after the final bad call of the game, and we'll talk about the calls in a minute. I really like Jamal Williams going down on that play because the Lions were going to try to let him score so that they would have a chance to send their offense back out.
Such a goofy play.
It
made sense, but it was so goofy.
I just love Jamal Williams going down with a huge grin on his face, and that would have never happened on a Mike McCarthy team. They would not have been disciplined enough to do that. And it was funny in the replay of it too. You can see Aaron Rodgers in the background shouting, "Go down, go down, go down." That was fun. And I also was reminded of something that you said a while back, which was name a more iconic duo than no-name offensive talent and the 49ers. Well, this Packers offense is supposed to be similar to the Kyle Shanahan offense. And look at what they're doing with no-name talent. Uh, Alan Lazard, Jake Kumaro, and Mercedes Lewis all made huge impacts in the passing game in this
I
game.
wouldn't say Mercedes Lewis is a nobody.
He's not a
That's a
nobody.
disrespectful to his
He's not.
long career.
I mean, okay, yes, agreed. However, he's past his prime and he's primarily a blocker, and yet he's making huge impacts catching the ball down the field. Um, and that speaks to the effectiveness of the scheme overall. Um, and I mean, I really like what Matt LaFleur is doing, and we'll get to it, but it all kind of came together in Week 7 against the Raiders. Um, and then Darius Shepard, of course, nearly cost the Packers this game. He caused 2 huge turnovers. He muffed a punt, and then later he dropped a pass on the goal line that was intercepted. And the Packers defense, to their credit, stopped the Lions on those drives, and also after an Aaron Jones fumble in the first half, and held the Lions to field goals. So that was big. And the Lions kicked 5 field goals in this game. They should have won this game, in blowout fashion, but they didn't, because the Packers defense stepped up. So yeah,
At the end of the day, Lions were the better team on that day,
they were absolutely,
and they lost the game.
They did. And
And I think
then
that's
we
how I
can
want to
talk
close.
about the officiating too. And okay, the last call, the hands to the face, was legitimately a bad call. Should not have been called at all. However, the first hands to the face call, you didn't see it on the broadcast, because they cut away from replay at the wrong time. The hands to the face was actually after the play, or after what they showed, because it looked like he had his hands up around Bakhtiari's collar and was shoving him back, which was, what was happening. Not a penalty, perfectly legal. Then, as he was trying to go around him to get to Rodgers, he got his hand up under the side of Bakhtiari's helmet, and that's what drew the flag. And that was a legit penalty. And
From what I saw, he grazed it, and it didn't actually impact. It wasn't because
right, but
my understanding of how hands to face works is that it's if you it's almost like a face mask. It's if you're using your leverage to move their face, their helmet, right?
mm-hmm.
And I don't think that he actually did that. He just sort of his hand met the helmet, and they just
Yeah, on that first one, you can see it's not to the face. It's like he gets underneath the side of the helmet, and that's what drew the penalty flag.
I still think that's such a stretch.
But anyway, yeah, the second one was just a terrible call. Um, should not have been a penalty. It is worth pointing out that if the Packers had just kicked the field goal there, yes, the Lions would have gotten the ball back with no timeouts and a little under 2 minutes, so they could have feasibly gotten into field goal range and won the game. And that penalty robbed them of their chance to do that. So, yeah, I mean, you can't say that the Packers won this game solely because of bad officiating, but it certainly helped.
It was one of the only games that I've ever watched where I think where I look at them the officials were just too much. When an official steals the show, it's always a bad game. It's
yeah,
always a bad
absolutely.
game. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what happens before that or after. If an official out of their way,
Yeah, it's like
impacts the game, becomes the
if you talk
star.
about the NFC Championship game from last year, the Rams and Saints was a fantastic game. Went to overtime, and the only thing anybody talks about is the missed pass interference
Yeah,
call.
because it was a bad game because of that.
Exactly, it completely ruined the game, an otherwise great game. Um, so anyway,
Yeah. Moving on. I think we've talked
moving
about
on to
a
to
lot
week
about it.
7. Yeah, so moving on to the week 7 game, the week 7 games, I should say. Um, I'm Ryan, and I'm joined by my friend Bryce, the Jake Brisket to my Eric Ebron. Let's recap week 7. um,
All
that was a
right.
fantastic catch. But anyway, so we'll start with Thursday night. The Chiefs and Broncos. All I have to say about this game is that the Broncos are terrible, and Mahomes got hurt, and you don't need to know anything else.
Unfortunate that Mahomes got hurt for everyone.
hmm Yeah, it's bad for football when the best players get hurt. It's actually a pretty lucky break for the Packers, who are playing the Chiefs on Sunday night. Um, but still, even so, I would rather see Mahomes play against the Packers, even if it means the Packers losing. Um, it's just better football with the best players playing.
I agree.
So
I agree.
anyway,
Broncos are a mess. I've never
okay.
seen a Broncos team 1-3 at home.
Oh, I know. It's wild that they're this bad. Um, but anyway, um, so moving on to Sunday, then the early slate. Would you like to start with the Jags?
The early slate. Ooh, I okay. So I'm not someone who watches a lot of Bengals football, so I haven't watched a lot of Andy Dalton in my time.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 interceptions, in the span of less than 5 minutes, were one of the most jaw-dropping turns of events I've ever had watching football. Like I never have been like agape because someone is playing as shit as Andy Dalton did, because he was actually like, playing like he was the better quarterback in that game until those interceptions. Like he was finding open receiver. He actually had these really accurate, consistent throws downfield, and then interception, get the ball back, pick six, get the ball back, interception. And it's like, well, now the game's over.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it was 27-10, and it's like, well, oh well. And I was just
Yeah.
looking at the game like, oh, I guess we win. Like we were winning before that, and then it's like, well, we win. Minshew is I think what I would worry about with Minshew right now is he's getting too reliant, in my opinion, on uh using his legs, and he gives up on plays incredibly early. I
Mm.
think he should use his legs to move in the pocket more than just scrambling to get yardage with his feet. He does this a lot more than he used to.
Well, that's one of those things though. And it's a common offseason trope. You always hear the second year quarterback say, "The game is really slowed down for me," and I think that's just kind of a rookie thing for Minshew, and
I
hopefully he'll
Yeah,
hopefully he'll kind of outgrow that.
I mean, what
And
I'm gonna say is I want to criticize him now because this is the easiest time to give him criticism and the best time he needs it. You know?
yeah, I mean, like you said, it's certainly an issue with him giving up on plays too early, but I feel like as he gets, more experience, he'll get better at that. And he'll make more of the spectacular plays that we love to see from him. Um, so any other thoughts on this game? I don't really have much to say about it.
Um, no, not a lot else. Fournette played really well against one of the worst Bengal rushing. I mean, one of the worst rushing defenses ever.
Yeah,
And
I I don't know if you are aware of this stat, but the Bengals have been outgained by their opponents on the ground by almost 1,000 yards this season. Like they have one of the worst rushing offenses and one of the worst rushing defenses. Um, they are bad. Um, they they are giving the Dolphins a run for their tank job. Um,
We'll see how that pans out later,
yeah, they're gonna play. um,
for better or for worse.
yeah. So let's move on. I mean, we just kind of talked about the Packers, but we may as well talk about the Raiders and Packers now. So this game was not really close, but the Raiders played much better than the final score would tell you. They, of course, had 3 empty red zone trips. Um, there was the Carr fumble through the end zone. Then they failed on a 4th and goal. And then towards the end, in desperation, Carr threw a pick in the end zone. So, like I said, the game wasn't close, but the Raiders' offense actually moved the ball pretty well. Um, and by the way, a fun nugget is that this is the first time that the Raiders have ever had 3 empty red zone trips since the game where Brett Favre went off on them the day after his father died.
That's funny.
Yeah.
The perfect
um,
masquerading Rodgers.
yeah,
Too.
I mean Aaron Rodgers. What else can you say? I'm so excited about this Packers offense now. They finally have come alive, and maybe it just took a bad Raiders defense for them to get in sync. But yeah, they looked good. Love to see Jake Kumaro getting a big touchdown. Valdez Scantling caught a long touchdown along with another pretty deep ball. Um, and Aaron Rodgers threw 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers and ran for a score as well. I mean, this was vintage Aaron Rodgers, and I'm really happy to have that back.
I
So
mean, yeah, he looks not a day over 30. Like,
yeah. Um. So anyway, let's move on and talk about the 49ers at the Racists. Uh, yeah,
I I was so excited to watch this game, but it just never turned on. All I saw was just people playing on a slip and slide, and the score
yeah.
was 9-0.
It was basically a bunch of guys running around in the mud. Um,
And they couldn't really do anything.
yeah, no, nobody could move the ball through the air. And I mean, give credit to the 49ers. They won a game that, these weather games are never easy to win, when it's bad weather and, you know, offenses can't move the ball. And it's just scheme doesn't really matter as much in these games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's really just everybody beat your man. Um, and the 49ers were able to do it. They won a messy game in more ways than one, and they won it 9-0. I
The
the
49ers scored 9 points and only punted it twice, and they won the game.
Yeah.
Like that's
Hmm.
how bad this game was.
Yeah.
It was the fastest game I'd ever seen, though. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it
It
was
was
really
on, and then
fast.
it wasn't.
Hmm.
And that has to
Um.
do with the fact there was like 60 rushing attempts all game, and
Yep.
only like 30 passes.
Hmm. Yeah. So I don't know that there's much more to say about this game. Like you could say you're concerned about Jimmy G, but like again, it's bad weather conditions. I feel like just throw out this game. You got the win if
Any
you're the
help before
49ers.
tonight's
That's
game?
all that
Terry
really
McLaurin.
matters.
Right. No, I
Sorry.
I'm sorry. What all did you hear?
No, I just zoned out for like 2 seconds. I didn't know if I missed anything.
Not really. Okay. Um. So yeah, let's move on to Cardinals and G-men. Um. Um. So the Giants' offensive line, they're pretty terrible. Um, they allowed 8 sacks in this game to the Cardinals. um, so yeah, that's not good.
In
And
case you didn't know, that's not good.
the Giants' defense is also really terrible. Um, the second Chase Edmonds touchdown in this game, Kyler Murray took the snap and the shotgun, and it was a draw play where he just kind of froze, and it just looked like he froze for a moment, then turned and handed it off to Edmonds, and it looked like on the replay the entire Giants defense also froze because they didn't know where the ball was going, and um, that was um, that was just a bizarre sort of play to watch happen. Um, Chase Edmonds ran for 3 touchdowns in this game, much to the chagrin of you and other David Johnson fantasy owners. Um,
Yeah. As
but
a Terry
yeah, I mean,
McLaurin, George Kittle, and David Johnson owner.
yeah, um, really, really bad week for you in fantasy. um, but anyway,
David Johnson, Kenny Galladay. Yeah.
yep. Uh, so yeah, the Giants look like a really bad team. The Cardinals are probably a middle of the road to bad team, but they can beat the really bad teams, and they've proven that over the last 3 weeks.
I mean, if the Cardinals come away with 6 wins this season, that's
Yeah,
impressive. I did not think they were going to get.
yeah, and I mean they're on track to do that. They're 3-3-1 now. You know, they actually have a winning record. Well, not exactly,
Yeah, I was
but
about to say that's
they
not really how that
they have a
works. They've been on a
they're
3-game win streak.
yeah, but they beat the Bengals, Falcons, and Giants. So can you really? I mean, don't those teams have a combined 2 wins?
Yes.
Like that. That's
Yes. But they did
but
win the games.
they did win the games.
Win them.
And so yeah, this Cardinals offense looks good when they're playing a really bad defense. I'd like to see them perform against a good defense or even just a middle of the road defense. But anyway, we can move on from this game.
There's a
And
possibility, by the way, before we move on. The Rams finished last in the West.
it is possible. It is definitely possible. It would probably require the Cardinals to beat the Rams at least once.
That's what they have to do. If the Cardinals beat the Rams, then it's like, I mean, it's almost guaranteed.
Mm. Um. Anyway, uh, so let's move on from this game to the Texans and Colts. And this was a really interesting game. This was another case of the officials really hurting a team, though.
I've never
The
seen 2
Texans.
points total scored for a team in the fourth quarter.
Mm. And by the way, it was a really interesting decision to take that safety. It was 23-28 at the time, and they took the safety punting out of their own end zone in order to, I guess, kick the ball away and the Colts don't get such good field position. I'm not entirely sure on the reasoning
trying
there.
to reset the field, basically.
I mean, it does make sense. And it worked out for them because they got the stop, forced the punt, and then they got the ball back on offense. But it was still a bizarre sort of decision, to make the game a 7-point game. But I guess I do understand that. But the Texans, for all of their woes, they looked like a good team in this game, but not quite like the team that beat Kansas City in Week 6. And the Colts looked pretty good, and they looked just like the team that beat Kansas City 2 weeks ago before their bye. Um, And ultimately, they looked pretty even. Jake Brisket had a huge game. Um, that fantastic Eric Ebron catch that I alluded to earlier was
Yeah.
part of that. Um,
4 touchdowns, 300 yards.
yeah, I mean, Jake Brisket looks like the real deal. But anyway, yeah, I mean that in the grasp call was terrible on Deshaun Watson. That took away a touchdown. That was awful. There were a couple other officiating moments in this game.
How do you feel about Kenny Stills being the number 2 receiver in the Texans offense?
It's really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, because Will Fuller's on that team. You got
Hmm.
you still got Kiki Kuti, who's a really good slot receiver, who now
Well, and like
yeah
not just that, but like it's Kenny Stills.
yeah.
Like, didn't he play for the Saints? Like, didn't he start his career with the Saints? And like he was in some of those insane Drew Brees offenses, and was just like a totally average receiver in a great offense.
I think that has to do more with him being young then. And then you go to the
Perhaps.
Dolphins and just they misuse it. Apparently misuse you.
Yeah, that's what the
But
Dolphins will
also
do. Is they
injury has
will.
plagued his career. In all fairness, he did
Yeah.
go to New Orleans in the 5th round.
Mm, okay. Thank you for looking that up.
2013. He's been in the league a while now.
Yep. Okay. Um. Yeah, it is weird that he's their number two, though. I mean, it's also weird because they acquired him like just right before the season started. You know,
Yeah,
like he didn't.
and he was like the offhand guy because they were trying to get Tunsil.
Yep. Yep. So anyway, moving on. The so the next game I have on my list is Vikings at Lions. And so, after I kind of praised the Lions defense for containing Wentz, Mahomes, and Rodgers in their last three games, they go and give up a huge game to Kirk Cousins in this one. Um, Probably the most notable thing in this game was injuries to Kerryon Johnson, which put him on IR now. And Adam Thielen also went down in this game on a touchdown catch where he kind of slid into the wall after bringing down the pass in bounds. Um, which honestly, bad job by whoever designed Ford Field to make the wall that close to the end zone. Um, I've always had an issue with that. It's, you know what I mean?
Is that how Johnson went down?
No, that's how Thielen went down.
Thielen went down. That's right.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, bad stadium design.
The
You shouldn't
architecture is
have
just so off.
the wall that close to the end zone because of plays exactly like that, where a player's momentum carries them into the wall and they get hurt. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, that aside, this was a really big win for the Vikings. They needed this, and the Lions also needed it, and unfortunately, they have now lost three straight. Um, and by the way, a 4 touchdown game for Marvin Jones. Um, Great game for him. Um, and yeah, that's really it.
I mean, yeah. I thought the Lions were gonna lose this game no matter what, just because I don't think you win off a Monday night tragedy like that. I like,
Yeah.
and with on Johnson going down, your run game just becomes nothing, and it's.
FYI, the Packers won off their Monday night tragedy, the Fail Mary game years ago.
I mean, it's not like a be all end all, but like I would say that it's unlikely. But like,
I'm sorry, your theory for teams never win after Monday night tragedies not looking too good.
no, I mean, it's 50-50 right now.
Can you think of another Monday night tragedy? We could look it up.
Um, We're about to have one this coming week. If you look at it,
Oh, who plays Monday night?
Dolphins Steelers, I think.
Oh yeah, that is going to be a Monday night tragedy. Um. Anyway, we can move on from Vikings and Lions. Let's see. We already talked about the Jaguars and Bengals. Dolphins and Bills. This was an interesting game. Um,
The best thing to
much
happen in this
closer.
game was Micah Hyde.
This game was much closer than anyone thought it would be. And here's the turning point of this game, and it was completely wild. So third quarter, Dolphins have 3rd and 1 from the 4-yard line. So they're like in position to score here. They're up 14-9 at the time. They don't get it. So you're thinking, okay, field goal, make it 17-9, 8-point game. But no, they run a fake field goal. They get the first down, and the holder on the play who ran with it comes down just short of the goal line. So then they send their offense on the field again. 1st and goal from the 1. They're in pretty good shape. The Dolphins were attempting to run the ball. Fitzpatrick turned around to hand the ball off, and before he could hand the ball off, he was dragged down by the defensive tackle because no, he didn't fumble. Well, he did fumble, but he fell on it.
Yeah.
But like it's a run play, and just they forgot to block somebody. I don't understand how this happens. It just looked like 2 offensive linemen just kind of fell down for no reason. Like it looked like a random scripted play in Madden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's just like you're destined to fail on that snap. And anyway, so now it's 2nd and goal from the 12, and it's like, okay, still not the end of the world. They'll still probably come away with a field goal at worst on this drive until Fitzpatrick then on 2nd and goal from the 12 throws an interception, and that was the turning point in the game. And the final score of this game ended up being 31-21. However, the Bills did score a touchdown when Micah Hyde returned the onside kick attempt for a touchdown, so it really should have been a 3-point game. But anyway, credit to the Bills for just winning a messy game.
They'll win all these messy games. The only messy game they've lost is to the Patriots when their quarterback went down. So
Yeah,
they don't
and
seem like they're gonna blow people out of the water ever.
that's true. They're kind of like Seattle, where they play kind of a running style of football where they like to run the ball on offense and play good defense. That leads to close games, and that's what happened in this one. Um, and I'm just wondering. I mean, Fitzpatrick gives the Dolphins a much better chance to win than Josh Rosen does, and
Will he
I'm
be traded
wondering.
today?
Hmm.
Will he be traded today?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Why? Why? Who would want him? Um.
Bears.
Oh, I. Yeah, maybe.
Now you
Honestly,
see it. Now you see it.
now I see it. Yeah. Um, but anyway, it's just interesting that it's like the front office is trying to tank, but I feel like the coaching staff still wants to win, so that's why Fitzpatrick is playing and not Josh Rosen. Anyway, um, moving on from this game, unless you have anything else to say about it.
No, not really.
Okay, so let's go to Rams and Falcons. Uh, I have very little to say about this game. Um, this game was just exactly what we expected. The Falcons are just a terrible team.
Moving on.
Well, there's a couple more notes. One,
Let's
Matt
go.
Ryan left with an injury in the fourth quarter. It looks like he might actually be okay and be able to play. So I guess he avoided something more serious. So that's good. And then the last thing, and we haven't talked about any of the trades that have been happening, but this was Jalen Ramsey's debut with the Los Angeles Rams. I feel like we have to talk about it.
Yeah, you can talk about it. Yeah, you can talk about it.
Um, well, okay, here's what I'll say about it. Like Antonio Brown before him, and like Eli Manning before him, uh, Jalen Ramsey is now a player that I can never root for after what has happened here. He basically just quit on his team and got himself traded to another team, and I can't root for a guy who does that. So that's all I have to say about it.
All right, moving on. I don't want to talk about him.
Really, you don't want to?
I
Okay,
don't want to talk about him. He's a
I will
traitor. You know.
respect. I'll respect your right to not talk about the Jaguars. So moving on. Although, actually, one more thing about that. It is interesting now. The Rams are not going to pick in the first round for like several years now because of how many first round picks they've traded away, including this one to the Jaguars. So I feel like they're playing to win now, but they don't have a team that can win now. So it's interesting.
I mean, if the
We'll
team they
see.
need is a running back, that's going to be a second round pick anyway.
Mm, well, yeah. I do wonder if they could go out and acquire a running back.
From a certain team in the north who has two running backs, yeah. That's what they're going to look at. They're going to try to get Jamal Williams, if anyone.
the Packers will not give up Jamal Williams at this point, though. Um, although they could look to another team in the North that has two running backs, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. They might be willing to sell. Um, but yeah, who was the other running back that was like on the market that? No, I mean, I guess it was Melvin Gordon, right? But now nobody wants him. Um, so yeah. Anyway, moving on. Um, let's talk about the Chargers and the Titans. Um, so is there anything in this game really worth talking about other than the Melvin Gordon fumble at the end? I mean, Melvin Gordon had
I
a
don't think I
disastrous game.
want to talk about the Chargers, and the Titans are also a boring team. Like this, I don't know. This is
Um,
the a football game that no one ever wants to watch.
I will say the Chargers chargered themselves once again. I mean, they lost in ways that only the Chargers can lose. Melvin Gordon had a disastrous game. He fumbled multiple times, and his coach, a former running backs coach, had way too much faith in him. He is out of shape. He's a bad football player at this point, and he is hurting that team. On the other side, Ryan Tannehill is a massive upgrade over Mariota. He's not a great quarterback, but he is a massive upgrade over Marcus Mariota. And that's all I have to say about this team, either of
Right.
these teams.
I have
So
to
let's
agree.
move.
Yeah.
Let's move to a fun game. Ravens at Seahawks. Um, this
This is
was
the top
this was an
performers
interesting
from this
game.
game. You want to see the top performers from this game? Passing,
Okay.
Russell Wilson, 240 yard. Yeah, whatever. Rushing, Lamar Jackson,
Yep.
14 carries, 116. You're gonna see this with like almost every Ravens game, but it's really funny when you see like two scrambling quarterbacks duke it out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
one of them just decides I'm not gonna scramble. I'm gonna actually play quarterback.
Yeah. If I was ranking the like if I were to make a fun to watch ranking for the quarterbacks in the league right now, these
Josh
two
Allen's
are
#1, baby.
Josh Allen's honestly up there, but
He's really fun to watch.
these two are definitely up there, and Russell Wilson has been for a long time. But I would say my top five at this point probably Mahomes, Rodgers, Jackson, Wilson, and then I guess Josh Allen at that point. The Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of anybody else. Nobody, nobody else. Nobody who tends to plants in an outdoor area that's enclosed. In a
Yeah, I know what you're going with here. It's you know. Did you know that he got that a pornography site offered him a $1 million sponsorship deal?
really.
Yeah, because of his stat.
that's on. That's hilarious.
And porn actresses are going out of their way to say, "Don't accept it. You're gonna ruin your career."
Mm.
It's actually.
Wait, we're talking about Tom Brady, right?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, for sure.
The back of the defense is likely a little bit better than the
um.
front seven of the defense now.
Anyway,
The offense.
So yeah, no, he does look like a porn star though.
Yeah,
Like,
he has the porn stash. He has
yeah.
dude. He's gonna clean them pipes. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, back to the Ravens and Seahawks game. This was a game in which the Ravens won by 14 points, and their defense scored 14 points for them. Um, Marcus Peters, by the way, who just got traded to the Ravens from the Rams, uh, had a pick six in his first game in Baltimore. And it's interesting. You don't normally think of a corner as the guy who's going to really change a defense, but their defense looked so much better with him out there because I feel like with him being able to shut down a wide receiver, they can run a lot more blitzes, and suddenly they're getting pressure on the quarterback. So that was a huge trade for the Ravens. Um, they're also going to be getting Jimmy Smith back, so that's big too. Um, so there's that to talk about. And yeah, I mean the Ravens did ultimately look like the better team in this one. They had a lot of breaks go their way. Lamar Jackson kind of willed them to victory, I think. Um, Several big plays, like Mark Andrews had a couple of big drops in this game, and Lamar Jackson then bailed them out by rushing for first downs. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I really have to say about this game. So do you have anything to add, or should we move on?
I think we can move on.
Okay, so I'm contemplating how to do this. There is one more late game on Sunday, and I think we should skip it and come back to it because I actually have thoughts about the Saints and Bears games, or the Saints and Bears game, and then the Sunday night and Monday night games were just garbage. So I feel like we should just talk about those games first and then go back.
I don't know, man. I think I'm seeing ghosts because I don't see a single game, uh, other than the Saints Bears game. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
ah,
that was clever, man.
that was very clever. You know, I just
Okay,
can't see him, man.
so Eagles and Cowboys, Sunday night football. The Eagles' defense is terrible, and that's all I have to say about that.
Banged up. I
Yeah,
think it's the best word
they're
for it. Banged up.
they're banged up, and they're just not good.
It's not a good defense.
It's funny because I was watching Inside the NFL with my dad the other night, and when they did the highlights of this Eagles Cowboys game, and they showed just Dallas's offense just manhandling the Eagles defense, my dad said, "Where were these Eagles a few weeks ago when the Packers played them?" And I said, "They were on the bench because they're all backups."
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically
That sums up the game. Like, honestly.
yeah, it really does. So let's move to Monday night.
Super
The
clever, actually. I'll give you
Yeah,
credit for that. That was really.
thank you. And I came up with it in the moment too.
Yeah.
Um,
If there was no pause in that's cool. That's cool.
yeah. Um, so anyway, I'll let you talk about the Patriots and Jets because I actually didn't watch this game. I actually wanted to and then just didn't end up watching it.
Uh, Darnold does not have an O-line, or rather, the Patriots defense made it look like there was not an O-line on that Jets team. Darnold couldn't do anything this game in any capacity. 4
Yeah, I
interceptions
mean,
speaks for itself, but like
he was seeing ghosts out there.
it literally, I think they would have been better if they gave Le'Veon Bell the ball 30 times.
Yeah.
Like that's
And by the way, I'm going to echo a point that Dan Hansis made. Really bad job by NFL Films of letting that sound clip of him saying "I'm seeing ghosts" get out into the world. That's the sort of thing that they should censor out and not allow to be broadcast to people. You know what I mean?
whatever. I don't think it matters too much. I know it's
I don't think
stay
it
with him
does.
for his entire life, and it sucks. But you're a quarterback in the NFL. Suck it up, Buttercup.
No, I agree. I think that Sam Darnold, and I think he's handled it very well, and I think he'll be okay. But it's something that should not get out there. We shouldn't be talking about it.
I guess that you can say that. So
And
I'm
speaking
looking
of
at
things,
all our predictions, by the way, and I think
okay,
we are not perfect with anyone left, are we? Because the Patriots we had lose to the Jets,
yep,
and they sweep
the
them. The Dolphins were supposed to beat the Races.
and the 49ers were supposed to lose to the Rams. We could still be perfect on the Niners because if the Rams beat them later, it'll fix this prediction.
True. So if all they had to do was sweep everyone and then split with the Seahawks and Rams. So
Yep. So they could still. It could still happen.
Cardinals.
Yeah. They'll just drop a random game to the Cardinals.
Cardinals will make it into the playoffs somehow.
But anyway, let's go back and talk about the Bears and Saints because I actually do have some comments on this game. And okay, I'll go over the actual game first before I get into this. So, first of all, Mitch Trubisky looks broken. He missed a lot of open throws in this game. And of course, I know you don't like to hear it, but Chris Wessling compared him to Blake Bortles. And that's not a good thing. So
tell me that's not a compliment.
No, it's not. It means he's mechanically broken. And once again, it's the most Bears thing ever to trade up for a quarterback and take Mitchell Trubisky instead of Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. And then, of course, how in the world are the Saints still undefeated without Drew Brees? What a defense they have. Wow, amazing. Yep, okay, great. Moving on. This is what I want to talk about from this game. And just hear me out on this. Can you keep an open mind?
All right.
Cordero Patterson deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
For kick returns?
For kick returns.
Because he has, I think, 8 now?
No, he has 7 now. So he's 1 away from the NFL career record, which is held by Josh Cribbs and Leon Washington, who both scored 8 in their careers. But here's what's significant about this. Josh Cribbs and Leon Washington both retired after the 2014 season. And now, in an era where special teams is kind of overlooked and kickoffs are becoming less relevant, and we've had a discussion on this podcast about how kickoffs are a bad play and need to be removed from the game, and we both agree with John Boyes and all that. In 2011, right? That's when they moved the kickoff spot up from the 30 to the 35. which led to a lot more touchbacks and a lot fewer big returns because the coverage was getting downfield faster. So, like I said, Cribbs and Washington both retired in 2014. Yeah. Washington had one kick return touchdown in 2012, and Cribbs had 0 after the 2011 rule change. So between the two of them, they only had one touchdown with the kickoff spot from the 35 instead of the 30. Cordero Patterson, on the other hand, was drafted in 2013. So he's played his entire career with the kickoffs coming from the 35 instead of the 30. And he has now one fewer touchdown than Leon Washington and Josh Cribbs do.
It's actually,
And
I've always thought, like, he just seems to have a knack for it. If you've actually looked at his film, remember John Boyce? What he says?
I rewatched
Just
that video
randomly,
too.
like, cuts down the field. It's like, he just has, like, who does that?
He's brilliant at kick returning, and like I understand that he was, a first round pick for the Vikings and ultimately a draft bust, and now he's on his 4th team in 4 years and all that. But just being so specifically good at one thing, and in his case it's kick returning, I feel like that deserves recognition. He is the best kick returner
You cannot
ever
tell
to
the
play the
history
game.
of the NFL without Cordero Patterson's kick returns.
I mean,
that is what you're saying.
No, but
then he can't be
what I'm saying is you can't tell the story of kick returns without Cordero Patterson's kick returns.
I think in my opinion, he needs to have a playoff kick return, and then he can go in the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's not going to happen with this Bears team.
Yeah, but he needs to have a playoff kick return, or a kick return that like actually has playoff implications. A high stakes kick return would cement him as that discussion.
By the way, I know we're a little ways away, but when Devin Hester retired a couple of years ago, there was talk that he might be a Hall of Famer, and again, I feel like he should be. But, most of his damage he did on punt returns. However, he did have that big kick return in the Super Bowl. He returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown in that Super Bowl against the Colts. So, I don't know. I feel like if Hester makes it, Patterson should make it. And I honestly feel like both of them should, but probably neither will. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Are you hearing me? Okay.
I'm just thinking, like.
Okay.
Devin Hester, I don't think you could tell. Yeah, I think he should be in because, like, the part of the 2000s was Michael Vick, Devin Hester, all those, like, explosive, exciting players, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't tell the 2000s football history without telling about Devin Hester and Michael Vick and the human joystick himself. All those guys.
Yep.
Deserve it. Deserve 100% to be in the Hall of Fame for that reason. Because stats can only tell you so much.
Yep.
Well, yeah. I guess that is the 2 weeks done.
Yeah. The only other thing to talk about is the Thursday night game from last night. The Vikings and Racists, which
what a shit
was
show.
pretty.
I hate quarterbacks on the Redskins. Why can't you just keep throwing it to McLaurin? He's your best player on the entire roster.
By the way, this is why I said I didn't like Terry McLaurin in fantasy this year, is because he doesn't have a quarterback throwing to him. And unfortunately, when they change from Keenum to Haskins, it gets worse.
Yeah, I think all you can do to Haskins when you start him is damage him. You should just keep him off.
Yeah,
I hate
he's
when
clearly
he
not
clearly
ready.
doesn't have the arm yet. He doesn't have.
Keenum from the 5. Gonna get hit, and he goes down. Fumble the.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, there's not much to talk about with this game. Kind of a cool moment for Adrian Peterson where he passed
he's
somebody on
throwing.
some list, I don't know. But he's something happened in this game and they I don't even know. I don't care anymore. But the Vikings fans, gave him a standing ovation, and that was nice to see, Good that they they still respect probably the greatest player in their franchise's history.
Yeah.
So
then that hug between Dalvin Cook and AP.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's really all there is this game. And we finally did it. We finally recapped weeks 6 and 7 and the Thursday night football game from week 8 all in one episode. And we did it in less than 2 hours. I mean, that's
We have done it.
I don't know. I mean, the word greatness gets thrown around a lot. But
that was both the stupidest and best thing I've heard you say in a while.
Yeah, I mean, the word greatness gets thrown around a lot, but that was a pretty great joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, we can move on. We can get away from football, or we can do predictions.
I think
which would you?
I didn't realize it was going to take 2 hours, honestly. Or like, actually, it's taken 80 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, not even an hour and a half. So that's something.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to do predictions, or do you want to just get into music?
I think we can get into either. Which one would you want to do? Do you think that we can just do music? You think?
That's fine. We can not do predictions. I'm okay with that.
I mean, we technically already have our predictions. They might not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we predicted this already. Oh, it would be kind of fun, actually. Now that I'm thinking about this, okay. Here's what we'll do. Let's look through our predictions, and let's defend the ones that seem super unlikely.
All right.
Okay, so Bengals hosting the Rams. We have the Rams winning. That one doesn't seem too out there. Agreed?
I agree.
Okay, moving on. Browns at Patriots. We have the Patriots winning. Yeah, that seems.
Keep looking actually until I find one.
Well, I'm just kind of going through them all. Ravens are on bye. Steelers against the Dolphins. We have them winning. That seems pretty likely. Colts, we have beating the Broncos. Looks pretty good. Jaguars, we have beating the Jets.
The Bills.
Do you want to stop? Do you want to stop and talk about Jaguars and Jets?
I just think we're just a better team on both sides of the ball. I don't know what else I want to say. Like, it's just we got a better defense. We got better offense. We got a healthy team. We got a cohesive unit. We don't got any glaring weaknesses on either side of the ball.
You have a glaring weakness. You have a glaring weakness at running back.
Against the Jets, no. What?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, no, what?
Okay. All right. Well, moving on. Moving on from that, we have the Texans beating the Raiders at home. That seems legit. No.
No, I'm just looking at. I haven't. I mean, Bears Chargers maybe. Let's see.
Okay, we have the Buccaneers we have the Buccaneers beating the Titans. Or excuse me, no, we have the Titans beating the Buccaneers.
They're both like evenly matched, dude.
They're very evenly matched, and we went with the home team. I do feel like Ryan Tannehill is the best quarterback in this game.
I found it. I found the game we have to defend.
Okay.
Go to the
What's
Falcons.
the game we have to defend?
Go to the Falcons.
Well, hang on. Let me just quick look. We'll get there. We have Bills hosting the Eagles. Oh, that's a game to defend. We have the Eagles beating the Bills in Buffalo.
That's one that we could also defend. But I think the juiciest one is the Falcons right now.
Okay, let me skip ahead to the Falcons. Okay, the Falcons. We have them beating the Seahawks at home.
Yes.
Dan Quinn against his former team. Then they go into a bye next week. I feel like this could be Dan Quinn's last game as the Falcons head coach.
No. He's going to come out, perfect game plan, scheme, and he knows the Seahawks team already. He knows it. It's been years apart. They still know it. But he's going to create this intense game plan where he puts all his unit on defense cohesively together, and they're just going to rout the Seahawks and hold them under 10 points. And Matt Schaub led Falcons team will beat Russell Wilson's Seahawks. We have to.
Okay.
I mean, how are you going to defend them?
Well, I mean, I will say that once again, the Seahawks style of play invites close games, and in a close game, you never know. Could be one huge turnover at the end. Maybe, DK Metcalf just catches the ball and drops it again, like he did against the Ravens, which we didn't even mention. I mean, did you see that play? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That was the most ridiculous turnover I think I've ever seen. So maybe something crazy like that happens again. And in a close game, you never know. That could be the difference. Okay, so now let's see if you can get as passionate about defending the Eagles winning in Buffalo.
All right. So here's the thing. Buffalo, much like the Seahawks, we discussed this earlier in the podcast, their games are close. Their games are needlessly messy and sluggish and clumsy.
Yep.
Doug Peterson, he's been around that type of play his entire life, He has Carson Wentz, healthy as ever. Alshon Jeffrey. You have Alec Galore dropping balls this entire season, right? He's been around this part before. So.
Yeah, let's not forget he was Brett Favre's backup.
Doug Peterson.
Talk
really?
about. Yeah, you didn't know that?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's funny.
He was Brett Favre's backup, and Andy Reid was the quarterback's coach and then offensive coordinator. And then when Andy Reid became a head coach in Philadelphia, he brought in Doug Peterson to be his quarterback. And then after Doug Peterson retired, he became part of Andy Reid's coaching staff.
Like Kellen Moore in Dallas?
Yeah, like Kellen Moore in Dallas. Except that we're talking about Andy Reid instead of Jason Garrett.
Regardless, I think that Carson Wentz outscores Josh Allen in the fourth quarter, surmounting a massive comeback and a 10-point victory against the Buffalo Bills.
I mean, okay. It's just, I don't think that this...
don't have the weapons on offense, right? The Bills don't have the weapons on offense to move against a bad Eagles defense.
That's where I'm going to say... That's where I'm going to say this prediction is going to fall apart, because any offense can move the ball against this Eagles defense.
I think so, too. I think Frank Gore is going to score 100 points.
Frank Gore is going to have a big rushing day. Devin Singletary will probably also have a big rushing day. Josh Allen will probably have... Josh Allen could very well have a career day passing. I mean, this Eagles defense is so bad. So those two predictions seem pretty unlikely to happen. let's continue spinning forward. We already talked Dolphins. Jets are playing the Jags. We already talked Patriots. We have them beating the Browns on Sunday night. I feel like that'll happen. We have the Broncos losing to the Colts. We already mentioned that. The Chargers. We have them losing at the Bears.
That makes sense. I mean, they're both bad teams, dude.
They're both bad teams.
And it's at home for the Bears. The Bears actually have a defensive side of the ball, whereas what do the Chargers?
I don't
have?
know. I mean, the last 2 games the Bears played, Teddy Bridgewater and Derek Carr kind of tore them up. And by the way, that was a Saints offense without Alvin Kamara. Like they tore up the Bears. So I don't know about that defense anymore. I still feel like they're good, but they're not like
them against the Eagles. I mean, fucking Chargers.
the Chargers.
Only 2 players on offense.
The Chargers have
Phillip Rivers isn't good anymore.
Well, he's still good, I think, but he just doesn't have an offensive line. That's the issue.
Fair.
So okay, I do think the Bears still probably win this game. Chiefs beating the Packers, of course. That seems unlikely, considering Patrick Mahomes probably won't play. Could you still see the Chiefs winning this with Matt Moore?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I could see Andy Reid making anyone fly on offense.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
really
let's give some credit to Andy Reid. He's a really good coach. I could see him with a week to prepare, getting Matt Moore in position to have a good game. Darnell Savage is likely to be back, though. That'll hurt Matt Moore's chances. And Aaron Rodgers is playing at the height of his power. So what it's going to take for the Chiefs to win this is Aaron Rodgers to have an off game and Matt Moore to play the game of his life.
Yeah.
It could happen. It doesn't seem likely.
Do we predict the shootout?
I predict a blowout.
Ooh.
I mean, just looking at this, I mean, do you really think that Matt Moore is going to be able to stand toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers? Like, the Packers look better on offense and defense than the Chiefs. They have a better defense than the Chiefs, no question. And with Patrick Mahomes out, they have a much better offense. Like, I don't think that the Chiefs are even close, and that's why I'm predicting a blowout.
Fair.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be terrible, but this has the potential to be blown wide open.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
people are rarely right about football games.
That's true. Yeah. Next game, we have the Lions beating the G-Men at home. That seems pretty likely. We have the Vikings. Oh, they already played. I didn't enter the result, though. We did have them winning, so we got one right. Yay. The Buccaneers are playing against the Titans. We already talked about that. Already mentioned the Falcons. Panthers at 49. Panthers at 49ers. We have the 49ers winning. Seems legit.
Every other game seemed reasonable.
Yeah. We have the Saints beating the Cardinals. We have the Cowboys on bye. I think we got that one right. Eagles, Bills, we already talked about. G-Men, we got racists, lost. All right. Got one. 49ers, Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks. Okay. That's everybody. So, we're actually feeling pretty good about our predictions this week.
Yeah.
There's only like 2 or 3 that we feel are quite a stretch. So that's good.
You're gonna win. Don't
Now
worry
watch
about it.
us.
You're gonna win. Don't
Now
worry
watch
about it.
us. Yeah, now watch us get only like 3 correct, and we're, it's our worst week yet. But we got one. We got one correct already, so you know. Um. All right. Well, I guess that's it for football talk. We can get into music now if you want.
All right, yeah.
Okay. So, would you like to start?
Let me start with "The Stranger" by Billy Joel.
That's right. That's what I recommended.
Did you forget?
I did because it's been 10 days.
I always enjoy singer-songwriters. I do
Yeah.
believe that of all the things to complain about that I've always had Billy Joel is I'm always the type of person who thinks that when you aren't too refined, too clean, and this happens with a lot of the piano singer-songwriters I found, like when they're more
Mhm.
based off of that. You have these songs that admittedly are incredibly like they're just snooze fests, I'd say.
Mhm.
Where it goes in one ear out the other. There wasn't anything that jumps out, and that can describe a few tracks on here. But he actually has this. He had a relatively diverse songwriting structure throughout, and I would say give it around a 7. Yeah, I like Billy Joel.
Oh, well,
think
good.
he's
I'm glad. Were there any songs in particular that you liked?
If I were to name one, I mean, it's gonna sound typical, but I think Vienna's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what like Billy Joel fans typically will pound the table for Vienna. Um, yeah. Did you recognize several of these songs? Because I remember when I did recommend this, you were like,
I
I've
made just a little bit. I
okay,
think I've heard "She's Always a Woman" before, and just the way you
yep,
are.
yep.
Only
Because
"Live Let Die Young" I have as well. Like obviously that one as special.
yeah. Because I remember you were like, I don't think I've heard any Billy Joel except for Piano Man, and I'm like, you'll probably recognize 2 to 3 of these, and it sounds like you
I
did.
didn't know
So
he made "We Didn't Start the Fire" Uptown Girl. I'm not even gonna lie.
really,
Yeah, I didn't know
wait,
who
what?
did, but I didn't know he made those.
What was the second song you just said?
"We Didn't Start the Fire" and "Uptown Girl."
Huh? I didn't even know that Uptown Girl was his. That's weird.
I know, right?
I knew about We Didn't Start the Fire, but I did not know Uptown Girl was Billy Joel.
Aren't
That's
those like
interesting.
just when you think Piano Man, Uptown Girl, and "We Didn't Start the Fire," right?
They're really different songs.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. And like one of the knocks on Billy Joel too is that he like throughout his career he sort of imitated the music that was, popular at the time. Like he has one album that sounds a lot like the Eagles, because
For
they
sure.
were successful at the time. And like I understand that, but at the same time it's like he still did it well, I think, He still did a pretty good job. So anyway,
Anything.
moving on to
Clipping.
yeah, clipping. I will say I didn't really enjoy this album.
Really?
Yeah, but I just don't really like this kind of music. I don't listen to hip hop very much.
And
I
this is
don't.
harsh noise as well.
Yeah, there were a lot of like sort of sound effects that they used. Like they had that weird alarm clock thing going
Get
on.
Up is the best song in the album. Do not diss the alarm.
Like
You
it
cannot
was.
diss that track. That's my favorite.
I was going to say that song was actually okay, but the alarm clock was just annoying. And I don't know. Like I said, I just don't really like this type of music, and that's why I felt like I couldn't really get into it. Um, it wasn't the worst thing that I've heard though. So at least there's that. You know,
Yeah.
it was definitely no 1,000 gex.
Oh fuck you.
By the way, it's funny. You speaking of 1,000 gex, I know there's this kid who's really annoying. He's 15 and he's like super scrawny, and he talks like he's, a badass, and he just annoys the hell out of me. And
At work.
he's just somebody I know. But anyway, one time I was around him and he was like doing his whole thing, and I said, look at your arms. Your arms are so fucking cute. They look like little cigarettes. I bet I could smoke you. And
Dude, you can't tell me. It's not quotable.
it is super quotable.
Piss baby, you think you're so fucking cool, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, that was fun. I'm like, and somebody who was there was like, "What is that from?" And I'm like, it's from this stupid album my friend Bryce forced me to listen to. They're like, okay, but anyway.
And then they were like, okay, and we went about our day. The end.
Yeah, and then I told you about it, and then it was now, and then I don't know what happened. And then we moved on from music to
how
have you been?
How have I been?
So how have you been, Bryce?
Percy's been killing me, man.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
I really am. These entire few fucking. This midterm that's coming up on Monday is gonna. I'm so not.
Yeah.
I need to do well, or at least a 75.
Yeah.
I'm in a very odd place in the class right now. Because of my first assignment, the review assignment, it's worth like twice a regular assignment. I did really poor on that one. And that's basically made it so my grade's a 70% instead of like a 75 or something. Like, it's literally a 5% difference if that thing wasn't in my grade. Because I literally got like a 40% on it. So if I average what I'm averaging now and everything, I think in theory I'm fine, but it's scary, I would rather just be passing right now and then just go to this test confident I can knock it out of the park. But like this last assignment, there was one of the problems had loop invariants on it. And he didn't give us the loop invariant beforehand. He said, yo, this time, something he's never done before, you have to find it on your own. Even though I asked him in class if we'd ever have to find it on our own, and he said, no, we don't have to. I'll never force you to do that on anything.
Yep.
And he does that, and I get we literally went from an A on the assignment to a D because of that.
Yep. Yeah, he is the worst teacher I've ever had. I've said this before.
I don't know, how do you... Once PL and once algorithms are out of the book, I'm set, I never have to see this guy again, never have to be in a class with him.
Yeah. Are you taking both of those now, or?
No, PL's next semester, so I get
a
whole year of him.
Oh, that sucks. I only had one FIRST class my entire time.
Algorithms? Or is that summers?
No, it was networks was the one FIRST class I had. I had summers for algorithms.
I'd rather have summers.
I got very lucky in how I, timed my time at that school, because at the time NAPS was still teaching a lot of classes, and so I got, data structures, PL, and database all with NAPS, and that turned out really well for me. I only had to take FIRST one time.
You just right there, lucked out.
Yep. And I got summers for both discrete and algorithms, which was very nice having the same teacher for both of those classes. So that's that was another lucky break I had. So yeah. But my advice to you is never take another FIRST class if you don't have to.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I've been doing. There's a reason why I'm
I
taking my
actually-
ethics class next semester of PL, because I think
Yeah,
PL is going
yeah.
to be the second hardest class I've taken. Just because it's Percy teaching it.
Yeah. The hardest being this one, algorithms.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I actually I needed at one point I had one more computer science class that I needed to take in order to finish their curriculum, and I had signed up for I forget what it was. It was a class that Summers was set to be teaching, but then they switched it around and ended up being FIRST. And I got an email from FIRST like 2 weeks before the start of the semester that said, here's all that you need to do to prepare for the first day of class. And instead of doing that, I switched to a different elective. I switched out of his class immediately. I'm like, it's just not worth my time to go through his BS.
Yeah. I'm just trying to avoid him at all costs now. Like,
Have you taken any Justin Miller classes?
I have not. I don't even know who he is.
Well, he's Naps. I mean, that's the theory that we have, is that they're the same person. But anyway, no, he's like not a teacher. He's just a guy. He's a programmer who graduated from UWO, and he comes back and teaches classes. So I took software engineering with him, and I took security with him. And if you ever want an easy A, his classes, like all you have to do is just show up once a week for 3 hours and do minimal amounts of work, and it's an easy A.
Man, I wish. I don't know. I'm just trying to survive at this point.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, so that's how you've been.
Yeah.
Sounds like not good.
What about yourself?
How's
How's McDonald's?
I've been good. I mean, not up to a lot. Just
Bucks won.
Bucks last night. Bucks played. They won.
Giannis only didn't play that much, but he still got a triple-double.
Yeah, he played just enough to get a triple-double. Fouled out at the end. Did you watch the game?
Yeah. What I could, because we didn't get the signal here for some reason.
That sucked. Well, yeah, it was just kind of a case where the Rockets had a really good first half, and it was just the Bucks were getting open shots and missing them, and the Rockets were making their open shots. And then in the second half, it sort of evened out a bit, where the Bucks were making more shots and the Rockets finally started missing. And just in the end, it just came down to the wire, very close game, and the Bucks just pulled away right at the end when they needed to. Giannis fouled out, and that sucked. I really thought we were going to lose at that point, even though we were up. I think we were up 4 points when he fouled out, but I really thought we were going to lose, but we didn't give the lead back. So that was good.
Yeah. I mean,
by the way,
I can't wait for the Rockets to lead in turnovers this year.
By the way, I know that I know the Rockets lost, and I know that the Texans lost last Sunday, and I know that the Astros are behind in the World Series 2-0. However, pretty good time to be a Houston sports fan, don't you think? I mean, the Rockets figure to be a contender. The Texans look like a contender.
I'd rather be a fan of Milwaukee sports.
That's true.
Yelich, Giannis, and Rodgers all playing at peak form.
I agree. It's two pretty good fan bases to be in right now, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
It's so weird. Like just having like a star in each sport.
hmm Yeah, and an MVP in each sport. I mean, Yelich is not MVP anymore, but
He would have if he didn't get hurt.
I
Been
I don't think he would have. I think that Bellinger still outplayed him. As good as Yelich was, Bellinger's numbers were like pretty comparable, and the Dodgers were the better team. So I feel like it still would have gone to Cody Bellinger.
but what I'm saying, he's good enough.
Absolutely, he's good enough. Hopefully, he can get his knee right. You know, which by the way, sort of a similar injury to Patrick Mahomes' injury. By the way, Christian Yelich. Of course, he fouled a ball off his knee and broke his kneecap rather than dislocating it. But like Mahomes, no ligament damage. So once the once the patella itself heals, should be okay. Hopefully.
For sure.
Yep.
For sure.
So
Right.
yeah, this has been the Triple Doink podcast. 2 weeks worth of recaps plus one.
Oh yeah.
Plus one game, and what a game that was. It was a terrible game. But we really got to sell it that we did 2 weeks and a Thursday night game. Anyway, that's I'm saying a lot, I realize. But that's the end of the podcast. I'm Eric Ebron and Alan Lazard. Is that how this works? And you're Jake Brisket and Aaron Rodgers?
Oh yeah, the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what that means.
Me either, and I think that's a good place.
best
to
of best of the AFC and the NFC. That's how I'm going to interpret that.
All right. Hopefully we can get
All
this
right.
done next week.
Mm-hmm.
All right.